Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Wholeness with Hannah. I am joined today by Charlie Morley, a leading expert in lucid dreaming, shadow work, and mindfulness of dream and sleep. Charlie is a best-selling Hay House author and a two-time TED speaker. He has been lucid dreaming for over 25 years and became a Buddhist at the age of 19. His work spans clinical and corporate settings, including Oxford and Cambridge universities, the NHS, Metropolitan Police, Reuters, and the British Army Air Corps. In 2018, he was awarded a Winston Churchill Fellowship to research PTSD treatment in military veterans, and his work has since been the subject of peer-reviewed studies showing significant reductions in PTSD symptoms and nightmare distress through lucid dreaming alone. And Charlie now trains therapists internationally and is developing a postgraduate diploma in lucid dreaming. I've wanted to get him on the podcast for a while, so this is exciting. So welcome to Wholeness with Hannah, Charlie.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Pleasure to have you. Nice. So there's lots of stuff I want to talk to you about today, but I think if we start with just a bit of your background, so people understand who you are and how you've got into the work of lucid dreaming.
Yeah, how far back do you want to go?
As far back as you want to go.
Okay, well, let's go to just before my 12th birthday. That's actually the first time that kind of lucid dreaming pops up in the myth of who I think I am. Yeah, so for my 12th birthday, I asked for this thing called a Nova Dreamer, which is this electronic sleep mask that you put on your face, and it recognizes the rapid eye movement of REM, of dreaming sleep, and then sends these like red flashing lights, which are supposed to be bright enough to penetrate your eyelids, but not so bright enough to wake you up. And this mask claimed to give you lucid dreams. And I was reading about in this gadget thing, 80s babies will remember this, on the Sunday papers, there was this little gadget magazine that came with the, I don't know, Sunday Times or something, that had all these like mail order gadgets you could get. And I was flicking through it, and they had this advert for this thing. And I remember saying to my dad, like, "Oh, Dad, I want a Nova Dreamer. It gives me those dreams that I have." I didn't call them lucid dreams. I didn't know they were lucid dreams, but I kind of referenced them. Anyway, I didn't get it. It was like 300 quid, right? So Dad was, in your dreams, ha, ha, ha. So went back to being a kid. But that's the first memory I have, like confirmed memory of me being into lucid dreaming. I want to have more of them. And then when I was like 15, 16, I started getting interested in lucid dreaming and Buddhism, but it seemed like too much hard work, and kind of psychic stuff. And just my mind was going, it's got to be something bigger than this, right? So I got some books about lucid dreaming from the library at school, and then like taught myself how to do it properly, because I've been having lucid dreams before, but hadn't like taught myself to do it. So I taught myself to do it, and it is a learnable skill, which is the first kind of good takeaway, that it is a learnable skill. In fact, children naturally lucid dream. Not every child every night, but like two studies, big study from UK based on British school children actually, has found that lucid dreaming is a spontaneous arising of childhood brain development. So not just spontaneous arising, but like part of the developing brain of a child. So it seems to be kind of good for us. But you can like teach yourself, so you can do it at will. So I bought some books, taught myself how to do it, and then spent like a couple of years just using lucid dreaming for hedonism, like just sex and skateboarding, other stuff too, but mainly sex and skateboarding. Because at like 15 years old, you realize you're in this like virtual reality simulation where you can do anything and there's no rules. You're going to be really good at skateboarding, and in my case, try and have lots of sex. I was doing lots of skateboarding in the waking state, not so much of the other things, so only in my dreams. And then we're just doing that for like a couple of years. Then I get into Buddhism, and it turns out in Buddhism, they've got like 1,000-year tradition of using lucid dreaming, not for sex and skateboarding, but for spiritual development, for training for the moments of your death, for exploration of the empty nature of reality, like spiritual practice while you sleep, all this amazing stuff. And I was like, oh, wow. So I've got this training in this thing that I've completely underestimated. Now I want to learn how to do it properly. And then, that led me to Buddhism, and then end up living in a Buddhist temple for 7 years and training with these Tibetan masters. And then they thought it'd be a good idea for me to start giving talks. And that was 17 years ago.
Wow. What a journey. That's so cool. So it started really young. So you were here, you knew what you needed to do on this earth.
Well, kind of. I had a lot of diversions. I mean, I was like in my 20s, like the time I started teaching lucid dreaming, I was making my living running a hip hop collective called Throwdown. So I was like a rapper in like a moderately successful hip hop group, like something completely different, right? But that was always my passion. I just didn't know how you could ever think of making a living from it or anything like that. So I was doing all this creative work, kind of, doing the breakdance stuff and the rapping and the spoken word poetry and stuff like that. But I'd always it was like that secret dream. Imagine if I could actually teach people this thing I love to do. And then, now I do get to do that, which is nuts. And I think it's my almost a duty to be joyful, because I have this amazing privilege to do something that I would do even if I didn't get paid to do it.
Yeah, that's so amazing. That's so purposeful and fulfilling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so let's talk about lucid dreaming. So if someone's sitting there thinking, no idea what lucid dreaming is,
Yeah,
what does
exactly.
it really mean to wake up to sleep?
Yeah, so a lucid dream is a dream in which you know that you're dreaming as the dream is happening. So it's not just a really vivid dream. Like often people say, oh, I have really lucid dreams. And I know when they're using lucid in that way, they probably mean really vivid dreams. It should really be called conscious dreaming, because the defining factor of a lucid dream is conscious awareness. So any dream you've ever had, whether it's a nightmare, whether it's a fun dream, a scary dream, whatever, any dream where in the dream you go, oh shit, oh my God, I'm dreaming right now. This is all a dream. That's a lucid dream. Now, a lot of people, they wake up within 5 seconds of that, because it's such an exciting revelation of, whoa, I'm inside my mind. This is nuts. My body's asleep in bed. I'm inside a huge 3-dimensional virtual reality simulation of my own psychology. That in itself is such a shocking realization that most people's first lucid dreams last 5 seconds, right? A lot of my job is to get people to stay in there calmly. And then once you're in there in the lucid dream and you're like, wait, I'm in a dream right now. So because it's my dream, everything is me. So I'm literally inside a projection of my mind. So then you realize wow, there's amazing work I can do in here. In a similar way to a hypnotherapist would take a strand of your conscious mind down into the subconscious and plant these seeds of healing intent. In a lucid dream, you're doing the same, but you're kind of bungee jumping right to the bottom of the unconscious, simply because you can't get more unconscious than asleep, right? So you are deep in the unconscious. And essentially anything you can treat through hypnotherapy, you can also treat through lucid dreaming, because it's a similar state of mind. It's kind of, the ability to consciously influence the unconscious mind, leading to conscious state changes when you wake up.
Wow. Yeah. So I've had hypnotherapy quite a few times a few years ago. So I know exactly how that feels. But so if you've had a lucid dream, you know about it, right? There's no way you don't know that you've had one.
Yeah, sometimes when people, I often say when you have your first lucid dream, you won't need to ask me, was it lucid? There's oh shit, that was lucid, because it feels so real. It's as real as this. That thing about oh, pinch yourself to see if you're dreaming, or that idea in Hollywood movies where they show dream sequences in soft focus and with dry ice to show all this dreamy. Lucid dreaming isn't like that. If you wanted to show a lucid dream in a Hollywood movie, you'd go from standard definition to boom, full 4K or whatever the most high definition is, because it's an increase of awareness, not a reduction of awareness. It's like putting on spectacles. You're boom, suddenly everything's super clear. So yeah, once you've had a fully lucid dream, you'll know about it. Of course, there's a spectrum. You can have dreams where you're a little bit lucid. Oh, I think I might do. I think I can change this dream. Or, oh, I don't really like the ending of this dream. That's partial lucidity. But a fully lucid dream, if you get fully lucid tonight, you'll be in your dream going, oh, this is just like what Charlie said. I can't wait to email him tomorrow. You can have full awareness of the outside world. You know what you're doing. You know the past. You know the future. You're very much in the present. So fully lucid dream, you probably won't need to ask.
I can't imagine it. We'll talk. I've had, so it's just so happens the timing of this podcast, my dreams have been wild since November, but I don't think they have been lucid, because I've never woken up like that, but they have been the most vivid I've ever had in my entire life. And in the dreams, they're not symbolic. Lots of my dreams for my whole life are symbolic. You wake up and you're like, I've really got no idea what that was. Yeah. It was really random. My dreams since November, so for nearly 3 months now, have been me with people throughout my life. It's like my subconscious has been closing loads of loops and showing me act differently. If situations were to come out now, how would I behave? Testing, is there any emotional charge? That has been, and there's been so many times where I'm underwater and I'm on a plane. That is a really recurring theme in my dreams. And then they'll kind of create a situation and then I'll behave differently than I would have in the past. And I'll wake up oh my God. And the only time I was thinking, was it lucid? Was I woke up crying. Like my
Mm.
body, I've never done that before. Like
Mm.
I only woke up because my body was, the motion of crying, where
Yeah.
you're sort of like, and I woke up crying and was like, why am I? And then I can remember the dreams so vividly
Mm.
that I've kept a dream diary. I've got a full
Great.
dream diary, but I don't think they've been lucid. They've just been
Okay,
like
so that's
deep
really
and
good. First of
intense.
all, you're not like projecting lucidity onto your dreams. A lot of people feel like, oh, I think I was lucid. I think I was lucid, as if it's a value judgment, as if unless the dream was lucid, it wasn't worth anything. So let's drop
No,
that
yeah.
first of all. Like, even if you get to the stage where you're lucid every single night, which by the way, I'm not lucid every single night, but even if you were every single night lucid, let's say you get one lucid dream a night, right? Of just constantly. Based on the amount of dreams you have, there'd still be 95% of your dream experience would be non-lucid, even if you got lucid once a night, every night, because you have like based on 8-hour sleep cycle. Of course, it's these averages: 8-hour sleep cycle, 4 or 5 dream cycles within that 8-hour cycle, multiple dreams within each cycle. So you have dozens of dreams every night. So just statistically, if we were to say that lucid dreams are the best and everything else is worthless, we'd be discounting 95% of our dream experience. Like, if you ask me my top 5 dream experiences, yeah, like number 1 and 2 are probably lucid dreams, but maybe number 3, 4, and 5 would be non-lucid. Incredibly powerful dreams, but almost like they were so powerful, my dreamer, which is the term I give to the intelligence that creates the dreams, or Carl Jung would call the conscious unconscious, almost as if the dreamer had such a big message to give me. It didn't want me to be lucid. It was like, no, don't fly about, don't do anything, don't say any special mantra, just watch, receive this teaching, receive this wisdom. So in no way are lucid dreams better than non-lucid dreams. It's just that they can be better vehicles for eliciting specific change. So if you're looking to make specific changes to your unconscious through dreaming, lucid dreaming is your best bet. If you're looking for all other sorts of healing and integration, then non-lucid dreams are just as good. And as you say, you can have dreams where you wake up crying. They've had such a big impact on you that you have this huge emotional response. But yeah, thank you for being clear with those definitions, because I just feel that if we start saying, like, if we start kind of apologizing for our non-lucid dreams, we're setting up this false dichotomy that lucid dreams are better and they're not. Like, this is about dream work. Like, the cherry on the top for some people might be lucid dreaming, but we spend a third of our lives in this state of sleep, right? So let's make use of that, whether it's through lucid dreaming or just keeping a dream diary. Just that. I mean, we did a study recently at Northwestern University. It was a lucid dream study, but one of the outcomes we were looking at was, even for the people who didn't have a lucid dream over the 8-week period of the scientific study, what are the mental health benefits of just keeping a dream diary, of just being aware of your dreams for 8 weeks? And there are brilliant mental health benefits just for that, because there's this, dreams are trying to tell us something. Sometimes they're telling us, oh, I'm just downloading from the day. What they're telling us doesn't have meaning. I can tell you something without much meaning. I'm just telling you, I'm imparting information. So yes, some dreams are just imparting information, but other dreams are laden with meaning, And people often say, oh, I don't write down my dreams, man, because my dreams are so boring. And I always shoot back with, your dreams are boring because you don't write them down. If you start writing down your dreams, that conscious part of your mind that creates them will say, finally, Hannah, after all these years of ignoring me, you're listening. Okay, let's bring in the big stuff. Let's look at sexuality. Let's look at spirituality. Let's look at all this stuff. And it becomes like a positive feedback loop. Like, the more you write, the more you're aware, the more the dream will give you. So yeah, it's brilliant. You're keeping a dream diary.
Yeah, and that exactly what you just said has happened. The more I do it,
yeah,
and I have been shocked. I am literally like, it has been every single night without fail. The only night it wasn't was Christmas Day, randomly.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
but were you like drunk on Christmas Eve or something?
Actually, no, I don't really drink anymore. But I wonder if it was just a complete rest for the night, because I do find I wake up and sometimes I'm a bit exhausted still, and because of the dream's been quite big, it's clearly been doing something.
Interesting this. So, like, this is interesting. So The dream itself will not exhaust you. In REM dreaming sleep, you're not resting. It's not a restful form of sleep. In fact, REM dreaming sleep takes so much energy to create the dreams, the kind of to power the projector system in the back of the brain. You actually burn calories when you dream. So you are literally not resting. You are burning calories. However, our subjective experience of dreams when we wake up can feel that remembering the dream can feel exhausting. Oh God, I was being chased here. Then I was doing this. Then I was in this room and none of the doors opened. It's like the kind of memory of the anxiety dream itself can lead to this kind of exhaustion. And what we found is actually, again, in that case, once you get people to write down the dream that feels so exhausting when they wake up in the morning, the exhaustion dissipates. Because again, it's not a literal exhaustion, it's a psychological exhaustion. And all the benefits we get from journaling, it's daytime journaling, right? Writing down what you've done in your day, like free flow writing, we can apply to dreams too. So especially if you had a hectic dream, especially if you had a nightmare, definitely write down your nightmares. Don't let that nightmare or anxiety dream take up headspace. Write it down or speak it out loud. Because once you speak it or you write it, it kind of releases, and then that psychological exhaustion should, in most cases, help to be released as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. Because as soon as I wake up, I the first thing I want to do is write down my dream, because I'm like,
Brilliant.
It was so vivid, it's so habit. There. And what I do before I start really like looking at it, I have a feeling of what it was showing me. And by the end, I'm like, that is definitely what it was showing me. So for me, it's definitely been a lot of healing integration. It's like, it's felt so integrative. It's like new chapter of your life, but for you to really go into that, you need to close all these loops, and you need to see why you did that and why you did this. And there's been a lot of animals in them. Like, I think they're spirit animals, because I do a lot of energy healing. I'm an energy healer, and I always feel animals when I'm doing people's sessions. And I've had a lot of animals in my dreams, and kind of just as guides, or just letting me know they're there, but each animal represents something different. And I found that to be really cool.
Yeah, and like once you have, like, basically, I used to have no dreams of animals at all. Then I started working with this friend and colleague of mine, Sergio Magaña, who's a Mexican Toltec shamanic teacher, full on lucid dreaming, but in the Mexican shamanic tradition. They have this whole way of inducing lucid dreams and things that you do in your lucid dream based on animals. These very specific, like shamanic Mexican animals, like the feathered serpent, the jaguar, dogs for ancestors, butterflies, hummingbirds, like very specific animals, right? Once my brain had like installed the data of that vocabulary system, that butterflies mean impossibility, dragonflies mean love, all these kind of things. The dreamer then used that vocabulary. It was like learning a new language. It wanted to try it out. It's why people start dreaming in the language they're learning if they're taking French lessons or something. And I was like, this is nuts. So in your case, because you work with animals and spirit guides and have made those connections, absolutely, your dreamer will use that as a vocabulary. And it doesn't even matter if they're real or not. What is real, right? If someone has told me that dogs equal ancestors, because that's the Mexican tradition of which I've received these teachings, but someone told you that dogs equal good luck or something like that from a Christian tradition, I don't know, whatever. Our dreamer will use those dogs to symbolize, in your case, good luck, and in my case, ancestors. And it doesn't matter what's real. We have this thing, what's true? Which dream tradition is really true? It's like none of them are true and all of them are true, because it's your mind and it's your subjective experience. It's a different language that we're speaking. So really, when you have those animals, really take note of them and link them back to what they are, because you've got such a good opportunity there that your mind can use like not only the English language, but this other language of animal symbolism with you that it won't be able to use with someone else or with me or in other cases.
Yeah, that's so true. And you're totally right about the animals. For me, I literally have my own vocabulary of what animals mean, like spirit animals. And as you said, it's only got to be true to me, isn't it? Hasn't got to be true to everyone else. Wow, amazing. This is so cool. And I think obviously also when we're asleep, we're sort of out the way, aren't we? And we're always running around busy, and our like things can't get through to us. But when we're asleep,
because the ego mind's in the driving seat. We spend the whole day of the ego mind driving us around. The ego mind's an idiot comparatively. It's actually quite intelligent, keeps us alive, all this kind of stuff. But the ego mind, in comparison to the unconscious mind, is like nothing. It's like got nothing on the unconscious. But we're so dependent on it, so it's driving around. Thank goodness when we go to sleep at night, the unconscious that's riding shotgun is like, boom, I'll take the wheel. and the ego mind goes to sleep a little bit, and then it can drive. And of course, in a lucid dream, it's like it's the equipment. How am I going with this metaphor? Yeah, this works. In a lucid dream, it's like the unconscious is driving the car, and then the ego mind is now shotgun and kind of wakes up and goes, oh wow, great scenery. Where are you taking me in this car? Can we go left? Can we go right? This kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
exactly.
once you
It's
get the ego
so,
out the
so
mind,
powerful. And I think I've done so much subconscious work over the last few years, but that has been the most life-changing thing I've ever done because, we're running these patterns in the background. It's like 95% of our behavior, the unconscious, isn't it? So
absolutely.
making that conscious has been life-changing for me, and I've been able to change so much. So if we go talk about, so we're in a lucid dream.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about what you might what you might expect to see? And can you literally say, okay, I'm in my lucid dream, I want to work on healing this thing I know I've got, or this trauma? Can you do that?
Yeah. So the lucid dream is a thought responsive environment. So if you go and let's say you want to work with the inner child, and you've been working with a therapist, you've heard this idea of the inner child, which is an internal archetype representing your current connection to childhood, including all of your past memories, traumas, joys from childhood. It's all kind of coalesced into this archetype, which of course is not a thing. It's like a matrix of energy. It's kind of a psychological matrix of energy. So you're like, right. So in therapy, I have to kind of use different ways to contact my inner child. Things like art therapy or drawing or writing or play, because that's a way to connect to the inner child, right? In the lucid dream, you're in the unconscious mind. You are in the place, the home of the inner child, as well as all of the other archetypes, like the shadow, the mother, the whore, the lovers, the warrior, the king, the magician. They're all in there. And the cool thing about the lucid dream, and this is like a defining factor of lucid dreams, psychological concepts become personified. So a psychological concept like the inner child, which in the waking state might manifest as a feeling or like a kind of intuition or something you can connect with when you do some art therapy, in a lucid dream, the inner child will appear in like physicalized form. It might be symbolic. Some people get like a ball of red light or something like that. But in most cases, the dream will present psychological archetypes in personified form. So your inner child will appear, in your case, maybe as a little girl or a little boy, in my case, a little boy, usually the same gender, sometimes looking the same as you did at around the age of 4 or 5 years old. It kind of changes. There's no rules to this. But yeah, if you want to work with the inner child in a lucid dream, you can literally become lucid and call out, inner child, come to me. Or in my case, I call out little Chuck. Because the name I give to my inner child is Little Chuck, because when I was a kid, I used to be called Chuck, not Charlie, right? And when that happens in the lucid dream, like they'll appear 9 times out of 10 in like I remember the first time it happened to me, I hadn't actually heard of anyone. This is about more than 10 years ago. I hadn't yet at that time heard of anyone doing inner child work through lucid dreaming, but I knew it must be possible because I'd done lots of shadow work and that's an archetype. So I thought, I'll just try this out, right? So I didn't really know what to expect, but I became lucid and I called out, inner child, come to me, little Chuck, come to me. And I kind of waited and nothing seemed to happen. I called again, inner child, come to me, little Chuck, come to me. And then I saw in the distance, like this kind of figure, like coming out the shadows, but it was kind of hunched over, like hobbling. And because you can interpret your dreams while you're in them in a lucid dream, I was there and I was thinking, oh, fuck, maybe I've got some like deep childhood trauma that I didn't know. And it's because it looked like kind of this like hunchback of Notre Dame at Quasimodo. And I was, oh God, I felt a bit of fear. But then it kept walking towards me. And as it came into the light, I realized he wasn't hobbled over. He was limping. And the reason he was limping was because he was wearing one flipper, a swimming flipper, like you wear for diving, on his feet.
Right.
I looked at him and I realized it was me from a very specific photo taken by a swimming pool in Morocco, apparently, when I was 5 years old. And I'm wearing one flipper. I put it on my Instagram recently, actually, people can see it. I'm wearing these little green Speedos and I'm wearing one flipper. And that's why he was hobbling. And he came into the light and I was like, fuck, it's not only me, it's me from a very specific picture, as if the mind had like taken that image and then kind of animated it. So now I'm like face to face with this little my inner child in physicalized form. And I didn't know what to say. And I kind of, I thought, oh, I'll hug it. I often tell people, if you don't know what to do in your lucid dream, hug everything. Because if everything's you in the lucid dream, what better way of showing love and compassion than the hug? You don't need to say anything spiritual. You just hug everything. Hug the chairs, hug the people, definitely hug the monsters. See anything scary in lucid dream, hug it. So I see this little boy, I know it's my inner child, and I hug him. And as I hug him, he whispers something in my ear. He goes, "What happens?" And I was like, "What? What does he mean? What happens?" And then he looks at me, and I realize what he's asking is, what happens in my life? And at this point, I was like 30 years old or something like that. And I had this moment where I realized, how am I going to sum up the last 25 years of what I've done in my life to this 5-year-old version of me? And I was like, oh, and I started, we do this, we teach lucid dreaming now, and we do that. I tried to kind of sum up my life like that. And then he said something else. He went, "How's mum? How's mummy? How's mama? In fact, how's mama?" And at this point, my mum was really sick. It's before she died.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, of course. If the inner child could ask me two things, they'd want to know, what are we doing? Who do we grow up to be in second? Like, how's mum? He's worried about his mum. And I still don't know if I lied to the inner child. I don't know. I said she's okay, which is true and not true at the time. She's okay because we all go through old age, sickness and death, and that's okay. But also, I guess I didn't say, oh, she's actually really sick and she's dying. I just said, she's okay. And then I woke up in floods of tears, actually a bit like your dream. I woke up with kind of real kind of palpitations and tears. And that was like, I had no idea what was going to happen. And after that dream, I was like, okay, anyone who's working with me, let's see if we can work with the inner child. So I started kind of advising people to work this way, felt safe to do so. And now hundreds of people have done it and had similar experiences, not of course the same. I told that story when I first recounted it in South Africa. There was a therapist, female therapist in the audience, and she kind of stopped me halfway through the story. And I knew she was a therapist, and my imposter syndrome came in, because I'm not a qualified therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like, oh shit, she's going to like tell me it's really dangerous or wrong. And she went, wait, sorry, you're telling me you could meet your inner child in personified form in the lucid dream, totally aware that they were the inner child? And I went, yeah. And she went, this is going to change everything. And I never forget that. This is going to change.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I think it can.
That is, yeah, wow. And that is, I guess, then why you could say that lucid dreaming is potentially, would you say it's safer or more empowering than revisiting your trauma in therapy?
It's
quicker.
It's a very safe place to revisit it because it has an off switch. As we all know, we've had a really, really scary nightmare and you wake up. And you go, oh God. And you're in bed and you might be shaking and sweating, but you're safe. Like you got out the nightmare. Yeah. There's an ejector button, right? So
you can do that. You can just stop the dream.
The emotion will rise so much you will wake up naturally. Okay. You can actually with practice leave the lucid dream when you want, but it's not the way you think you'll do it. Rather than trying to bust out, you have to like sink back into it and like actually let the dream dissolve. So reduce your focus, and then the dream will dissolve and you wake up, which is the opposite of what you want to do. You want to go, wake up, wake up, wake up. But if you do that, you're like putting more energy into the dream. So it's kind of the opposite. But yeah, you can. But the point is you will wake up. If you are working with your trauma in the waking state with a therapist who is not skillful enough in holding your trauma, there is no ejector button. You cannot wake up from the nightmare of re-traumatization in the waking state. Of course, waking state therapy is brilliant. I've just come out of like 6 years of weekly therapy. Big respect for that. However, when working with internal trauma, it would seem that the lucid dream is a very good thing to use alongside waking state therapy, and in some cases might be actually preferred mode than waking state therapy.
Okay, and this question's just come to me. So how would you compare it to plant medicine? So like if you take psilocybin or something where it can show you your trauma and it can show you what's happened and why you've got it, and can sort of like, a lot of times you shake and stuff and get it out of your nervous system. And that's quick. You've obviously got to integrate it, and that's the most important bit after the ceremony. But what about lucid dreaming? Would you say you have the lucid dream and say you choose to focus on a specific memory or childhood thing and you come out of the dream? Is it quick? Is it like that? It's kind of integrated.
Really similar. There are like so many, I'd say if you look at the literature too on psychedelic therapy and dealing with trauma, the kind of results they get in comparison to talk therapy are similar to the results we're getting with lucid dreaming. They're like outstanding results. They're like way above. So they definitely do similar things. I think for some people, psychedelic therapy can be really, really powerful and a really, really good choice. I think for some people it's not. and can be really destabilizing.
Definitely.
And again, it's the power of the sitter, the kind of the ability to hold the space while you're on it. But loads of similarities. In fact, I've had quite a few psychedelic therapists as part of their training come and learn lucid dreaming with me. Not so much that they want to use lucid dreaming alongside plant medicine, but because, and this is very logical, the reason why people might have a bad trip, in inverted commas, is oftentimes because they are self-identifying with the mind's projections. They are seeing a hallucination and believing, they're believing that it's separate from them. Saying, oh, it's like a demon, or it's something not there, rather than this is an internal projection of my own shadow that wants to be seen. So their theory is, if we can train people in lucid dreaming, the crux of lucid dreaming being knowing the difference between internally generated hallucination and waking reality, you are creating a mindset that is perfect to enter into the psychedelic space. Because a lucid dreamer's like first port of call is being in a hallucinatory world. What could be more of a hallucination than a dream? And going, it seems to be real, but it's not. This is a projection of my mind. I'm safe in this place. So by engaging the training of lucid dreaming, you set those muscles up really well. They're very similar muscles that you would use in a psychedelic trip. And it's a really good way of kind of maintaining safeness. I think also lucid dreaming can be a really good way to integrate some of the experiences you've had through psychedelics, and they can work really well. I wouldn't say hand in hand. Well, who knows? You might be practicing lucid dreaming after a deep trip, but I would kind of keep the T's separate, but they seem to work in really similar ways. Lucid dreaming, if I get 100 people in a room and you give me one day with them, teach them lucid dreaming, that night, maybe 25 of them will have a lucid dream. The other 100, the other 75, it might take a couple of weeks. Others, it might take a couple of months to kind of stabilize lucid dreaming. You give me 100 people and we give them all 4 grams of mushrooms, they are all going to have an experience, right? So it's like more accessible, but it comes with a little bit more risk than lucid dreaming. So I'd say lucid dreaming kind of might take longer for the person to be able to apply. And the journey might, be more extended, but it seems to be safer. Whereas psychedelics, you're going to go directly to it. It's not like, oh, could I have a lucid dream? Could I have a psychedelic trip? It's like you take enough psilocybin, you're gonna have that experience. So I think kind of horses for courses, but they're very similar.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It just came to me that they must be quite similar.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to talk a bit about your work that you do with veterans then, because I know you've had some peer-reviewed papers published, haven't you? On PTSD and one of them you've done the whole randomized control, you've had a control group and everything like that. So what did you find?
So I had been working with military veterans and other traumatized populations for, I guess, like almost 10 years before I was approached by this guy called Garrett Yunt, who's a molecular biologist at a place called IONS, the Institute of Noetic Sciences, which is in the Bay Area near San Francisco in America. Very interesting organization. They do like full on, like proper peer-reviewed randomized control science, but on subjects that most scientists don't want to look at, like Reiki and psychic capacity and stuff like that. And a lot of their results are, didn't work. They're actually quite good in saying, in this case, we got no results. But some of the results they've got, and it's very, very interesting, the results they've got around kind of energy healing and stuff like that. So I knew that they would be kind of open to exploring this with a wide mind. But they got in contact with me saying, do you think that the work you've been doing with veterans in helping treat their nightmares, do you think we could do it to treat PTSD? And I said, oh, well, yeah, of course. I think even PTSD nightmares can be treated through lucid dreaming. I don't know, not PTSD nightmares, PTSD itself. So could we affect the waking state symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, such as anxiety, panic attacks, flashbacks, hypervigilance, through lucid dreaming? And I was like, that's cool. And I don't think that's ever been done before. Because, of course, with nightmares, if you can train someone to become lucid in their nightmare and know, oh, I'm not really back in Iraq, I'm just dreaming I'm back in Iraq, it's still a scary nightmare to be in, but they know their life's not in danger. They know, oh, I can change the ending of this dream, or I can fly to safety, or in the best case, actually allow the dream to take place, allow the nightmare to come at you, but know that it's just a nightmare. There's nothing, it just wants me to witness it. But they wanted to see, could it treat like actual PTSD symptoms? which was exciting. So we did a study. Of course, it took ages to find the funding and gather the participants and stuff like that. We did a study, 55 people, all of whom had chronic PTSD. So you had to have like quite severe post-traumatic stress disorder to get onto the study. So 100% of the people in the group with like chronic PTSD. And at the beginning of the study, we took their PTSD score, which is basically like it sounds quite arbitrary, but it's like a medical checklist of essentially how traumatized somebody is. And at the start of the week, the average PTSD score was way above the threshold. There's a certain kind of threshold, and they were way above it. Then I had a week with them to teach them lucid dreaming, but specifically lucid dreaming with the aim of integrating trauma. So when they became lucid, rather than, oh, I'm lucid, I want to fly about, or I'm lucid, oh, I want to kind of do my spiritual practice, or I'm lucid, I want to, meet my inner child, whatever it was. Actually, some people did do the inner child one. Their aim was to become lucid and specifically work with the thing that traumatized them. So it could be, actually, let's use the inner child one, because a few people did do this. There were some people in the group who were not military veterans, but who were working with childhood sexual abuse, so complex PTSD, more than PTSD single event. And in their case, a lot of them would become lucid and call out for their inner child, knowing that actually they didn't need to go directly to the trauma. They needed to go to the part of themselves that had been wounded by the trauma. So actually the inner child work was great. So a bit like the dream that I shared, they'd become lucid, they'd call their inner child, they'd show it love, they'd embrace it, they'd hug it. One woman, her PTSD manifests as chronic pain. So the doctors were basically saying there's nothing wrong with you, but she was constantly in chronic pain. It's classic, trauma response. So she became lucid. And in the lucid dream, a bit like a hypnotherapeutic suggestion, she called out in the lucid dream, chronic pain, I release you. I'm free of my chronic pain, I release you. And when she did this, in the dream, like a massive golden lozenge appeared, like a strepsil, like a throat sweet, but gold, massive, appeared in the dream and was radiating this light. And she got the symbolism of that the kind of strepsil thing was like healing, something that healed us with our throat or whatever. So they all had a lot of them had these experiences. And I knew when we were doing the study, like, wow, they're having powerful experiences, because the next day we were doing dream circles. So I was hearing these dreams. I was like, whoa, that's a powerful one. That's going to have an effect. But I didn't know, like, medically, would this have any effect on them? And so at the end of the week, they had the PTSD score taken again. So they kind of take this test, how traumatized are they? And the average PTSD score dropped so low, it was beneath the threshold. And when we look more deeper at the data, over 80% of the people in the study were now, their level of trauma had dropped so low, they were actually not diagnosed anymore as having PTSD, which was kind of amazing, shocking, and also I think quite disconcerting for the scientists, because when you get such a crazy data point, as scientists, they're quite skeptical. So assume something's gone wrong in the data collection. So they thought, well, look, we'll do like a follow-up study in 1 month, no contact with Charlie, no lucid dream training, no contact with the rest of the group. Will it last a month? Was it a flash in the pan? If it's last a month, we can say, okay, that's lasting change, right? So a month later, like fingers crossed, they take the test again. They've actually gone 1 point below. So they've actually increased the healing. And then they published, they were like, okay, yeah, this seems to have lasted a month. So we published it eventually, like no one wanted to publish it because it was crazy results, but we eventually got it published. And then once it was published, we got funding to do a randomized control, which is like the gold standard, where you basically got 50% of the group not doing the scientific experiment, 50% doing it. And we replicated results. We got the same results. So that's only two times, we need to do it like 10 times, but it seems we can definitely say that lucid dreaming is now one of the most promising treatments for PTSD available. It's non-medical, it's non-invasive, it's non-addictive. You literally do it in your sleep. It can sound too good to be true. It's not, because it takes training. It takes effort. You need to put an effort. But if you're willing to put in the effort, you can learn to lucid dream intentionally. You can intentionally integrate your trauma while you sleep. And you can have profound changes in the waking state. That we can say.
That is so incredible. Well done. That's amazing. And
Thank you.
So I want to ask you how we learn to lucid dream, but before we do that, just coming back to the scientist bit, because I find this all super interesting. I am from a logical background, and then my life changed, and I'm now a business psychologist and an energy healer. So I'm really interested in blending science with spirituality. I think that's the way forward. And I know that there's, why do you think there's such a struggle for science when it comes to experiences that are more subjective. So like dreams, like consciousness, like energy. And we've got people leading the movement, and I definitely want to be part of it. But I think that that's where it's all going. I think that's where science is going. And I personally don't need a scientific explanation for something. I'm like, if I've experienced it myself and I feel it and I'm very intuitive, that's enough for me. But I know it's not for everyone. So have you in your work found that a lot? Obviously, you've mentioned that, there was that with the scientific experiments, but what's your interaction with scientists been like in this arena?
My interaction with scientists has been great. Like the scientists who are collecting the data, because they're there seeing it happen. So they believe their eyes. Like, okay, this is happening. Scientists are great. It's then when you try and get it published and people are questioning the results. And like I had this whole thing with TED, right? I did this second TED talk a year or so ago, recorded the TED talk. And then when it got published, it got basically blacklisted. So you can find it on my website and you can find it if you have the link, but you can't search for it. It's not on YouTube. It's not on the TED site. So basically you can't find it. So it's as if it doesn't exist. And the reason,
and it was on Lucid Dreaming.
Yeah,
it was on
this study, on specifically that study, the one we did with the 55 people, the randomized control, all that. Basically, I was referencing the randomized control paper before it had been published. So their beef was, oh, you claim these facts, but the paper wasn't published. I was like, it hasn't been published, but I've seen the data. I was there. So I know when it's published, that's what it's going to say. But they had a kind of a problem with that. And then I think I don't know. I get it. Like some guy standing on stage saying, oh, there's this thing called lucid dreaming, which seems to be a trauma treatment that far exceeds anything on the market, and it's non-medical. You've never heard of it before. Of course, they're going to be like, who is this guy? I think when we did the second study and it came out, and then I spent the last year kind of leaning into them with all the science and getting the scientists to kind of go through each part of the TED talk and explain how it is. And they've actually now agreed to drop the blacklisting. So it's supposed to happen anytime, actually. So who knows? Maybe by the time this comes out, it'll be out. So search Charlie Morley, TED, trauma, lucid dreaming. It'll come up. So, they've been good, but it's taken like a year of kind of pushing back at that. A friend of mine, a Buddhist teacher, once said, science progresses when old white men die. And that's always stuck with me. Science progresses when old white men die. And I got a mate, Ollie, who's professor of psychology at Greenwich. And when he got his professorship, I remember thinking like, I didn't say this in my head. I was like, you can't be a professor. Like, you're my age. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm actually not in my 20s anymore. I was like, 30 something at the time. And I thought, oh yeah. So suddenly there's my generation of people, Ollie, who would come to like lucid dreaming workshop and stuff, now professorship. And he realized that's how it progresses. Just when the next generation comes in who have normalized things like lucid dreaming for trauma treatment. And you don't get this kind of stalemate with the powers that be that can't shift out of it because they've risked for their whole career. They've been saying, this is what works. This is what works. So when something comes up and says, oh, this works too, not saying that doesn't work. Like talk therapy is still brilliant for so many things, but for trauma, it's not that good. And we've got science on why it isn't that good, because the way the brain works when it's traumatized, and yet there's still so much pushback. Like, oh no, talk therapy, like 8 weeks of CBT for someone who's been traumatized or sexually abused. Oh my God. Like, I mean, I guess maybe it's better than something, but like, it's going to do very little for many people. Whereas there are body-based therapies, breath work, I mean, psychedelic therapy. Where are we on that? I think it'll take a few years to come in, but hopefully lucid dreaming can get on the back of that too. I think once psychedelic therapy comes in, it'll be such a sea change that I think then lucid dreaming will be able to come in there and it won't seem so weird. But yeah, my aim is by the time I shift off this mortal coil to have brought lucid dreaming into that kind of mainstream. So who knows? Let's hope I've got another 40 years.
You're doing a great job. And I totally agree on the talking therapy. I often openly say, as you said, there's a place for it. I think it's great. Like if it works for you, it's great. I've had it. But for me, what really shifted was when I started doing work with the trauma stored in my body, because talking therapy doesn't get it out. It's in my muscles, it's in my bones, it's in my subconscious, it's in my energy body. And until I started using breath work, energy healing, Reiki, like sound therapy, all of those things, they shifted it from my body. And otherwise it's just talking about, you can know, I knew my patterns, I was very self-aware in that sense, but I couldn't get rid of it, I couldn't get it
Yeah.
out. And until I got it out, I was just going to keep repeating the same pattern because it was so familiar. So that's what I'm all for this. I think it's amazing. um and then that's also why I love, there's people like, you've probably read his book, Dr. Bruce Grayson wrote After, so he talks
Yeah.
about near death experiences.
Yeah.
I find them so fascinating, and how having someone that who's, not got any kind of spiritual practice, is a super logical person, doesn't believe in any life after death, has an NDE, and it completely changes their life and how they see things. And someone like a psychiatrist like Dr. Brian Weiss, who wrote Many Lives, Many Masters, who again, psychiatrist, not really into that stuff, and has a patient who starts in, who I think he was giving her hypnotherapy, and she started having past life regressions. So it's exactly what you said. When they see it themselves, they then, think, wow, become less skeptical. And that's what I like seeing in science.
Yeah, which is why everyone should have a near-death experience. Or if they not
I
have a
kind of
near-death
want one.
experience, like do DMT, which is as close as you can get,
I'm
apparently.
not, yeah,
Like
really.
these shifts of consciousness are
Mm,
so important. It's so important for people working with the mind to have, and yet, like, I remember 5 years ago when I was looking for a talk therapist. I was going through a divorce. Great time for talk therapy. That time
yeah,
wasn't stored in my body. It was stored in my mind. I was like, I really need to talk about this, kind of what led to this, to break down relationships.
definitely.
So talk therapy was definitely the way. I remember when I was looking for a therapist, and I was kind of seeing a few of them, and one of them I found had like a full psychotic break, and I went, that's my guy. Like, the fact he had a psychotic break, I was like, perfect. I need you to know what I have been through. Like,
Yeah,
otherwise, how? If you haven't tasted the chocolate, how can we talk about this? And yet, I think so many of the limitations of kind of mainstream psychiatry and psychology are based on people not having the experience themselves, which is why I love it when like psychiatrists come to lucid dreaming workshops, because I'm like, if I can just give them one lucid dream, that's all they need, just one
yeah.
taste of the chocolate, of being in their
They can
mind and
take
going,
it away.
whoa, I am inside my mind right now, this is nuts, that's enough. Like, they'll have shifted. There'll be life before and life after. So I feel like sometimes with the lucid dreaming, it's like doing the that Kool-Aid and the acid test. I'm like, if I can get enough people having just one lucid dream, a shift can happen.
Yeah. Oh my God, amazing. Okay, so the reasons why we'd want to lucid dream are because that's when we can actually integrate these parts of us that we're holding trauma, that we can release, that are our shadow. And I know you do a lot of stuff on shadow work. So can you explain a bit about how you would paraphrase shadow and how we can use lucid dreamings there? And then also how you teach people to lucid dream.
Sure. And before we get that, also, you can just use lucid dreaming for fun. Like, we shouldn't forget, lucid
Good
dreaming
point.
is
We
like
like
so
that.
much fun. So if you want to just fly about in your lucid dreams and be like, have superpowers, or it's
I do. I
athletes.
want
I
to
mean,
do that.
athletes use lucid dreaming because if you train your athletic discipline in the lucid dream, you get better in the waking state. Like, even if you are doing it for stuff like trauma integration and stuff like that, it's definitely the most fun way to engage trauma
To do
integration,
it.
because you're in your bed. Like, who doesn't love their bed? You get a bed, and like, even if you work with nightmares suddenly, and people might hate their bed, with lucid dreaming you learn to love the bed again, because suddenly it's a place of healing, it's a place of integration. But yeah, talking about the shadow, so the same way as the shadow is an archetype, right? A bit like the inner child. It's not a thing. It's like a term given to a matrix of energy within us. And the matrix of energy that the shadow represents is the parts of ourselves we've rejected, denied, or disowned. So it's like the dark side of the human psyche, but not dark meaning bad, just dark meaning yet to be illuminated. So what do you hide from yourself and others? And there might be a lot of gold in there. Maybe you hide your hidden talents. Maybe you hide your beauty. Maybe you hide your love of spirituality from others. Why? Same reason you hide the other stuff, because your fear of rejection, fear of not fitting in. So the shadow is anything we hide from ourselves and others. And again, in the lucid dream, because psychological concepts become personified, in the lucid dream, you can actually meet your shadow. So a little bit more scary than your inner child, because you call out for your inner child, it's probably going to appear as a little kid. If you've gone through a lot of trauma in your childhood, it might appear as a child who's crying and stuff, but
Mm.
usually it will appear as a little kid. So some people would find that the safer option. However, the shadow, like if you become lucid and you call out, shadow, come to me, you basically ask for everything you repress, deny, disown. So your traumas, your fears, your phobias, but also your hidden talents, your spiritual side, your untapped sexuality. So it's not just dark, there's dark and gold there. Absolutely. Sometimes more gold than dark. You're asking that to appear in personified form. So for some people, it appears like again, might be a ball of red light. For other people, it might be like a classic monster. Like if you ask me to draw your shadow, someone could draw a monster. Other people, it might be like a goddess if they're working with the main thing they hide is their spiritual side. But that will become personified in front of you. And again, what to do? Hug. Like there's so much stuff we could do. And when I work with psychologists, when you meet your shadow, you should dialogue with it, ask it what it represents, all this stuff. Yeah, but mainly hug it. Because if you feel you're going to wake up from the lucid dream, you had one thing to do, don't talk with the shadow. Again, it's not talking therapy here. It's like be body. So hug, because what could be more symbolic of integration than the hug? Words might be misinterpreted, but a hug, everyone knows what that means. So if you meet your shadow, whatever form, hug it. And if you hug your shadow, like I talked about in my first TED talk, actually way back, you can have these really powerful integrations because you're basically hugging the source of your nightmares. You're hugging the source of your lack of satisfaction. You're hugging those untapped dreams if it's your golden shadow. So there's big work you can do in the lucid dream. But again, it doesn't all have to be trauma focused. In fact, in Buddhism, it's used mainly for spiritual practice. So rather than work on your trauma, although actually spiritual practice, of course, is trauma integrative, you would become lucid and do your meditation practice. Or you would become lucid and transform yourself into the deity. You'd become lucid and merge with the oneness of the dreams. You can have these really kind of blissful experiences. But you asked how to do it, right?
Yes.
Okay, so obviously there are like dozens of techniques and I've written all these books and blah, blah, blah. But if you're just listening now and you want some easy, quick steps, the 4 Ds are what I often talk about in podcasts. So the first D is dream planning, which we've kind of covered. It's deciding what you want to do in your first or next lucid dream. So don't just go in there blind. Don't be like, I just want to have a lucid dream. Think like, why? Like, if I could get lucid tonight, what would I want to do? Maybe I do just want to have sex with movie stars. That sounds really great. What he mentioned at the start of the podcast. I want to be good at skateboarding. Perfect. No judgment. Or maybe you want to work with your inner child, or maybe you want to work with your shadow, or maybe you want to integrate your trauma, or maybe you want to do your meditation and spiritual practice in the lucid dream. Maybe you want to meet the divine feminine, whatever it is. Decide what you want to do. And there's a whole process where you can write it down, draw a picture and stuff like that. First thing, decide why you want to have a lucid dream, because the why is more important than the how. Once you've got your why, then move on to the hows. First thing is dream recall. Like unless you regularly remember your dreams, how are you going to become lucid in them? So what you've been doing, setting the intention to remember your dreams. And then the third D is dream diary. So writing them down. So as far as the intention, as you fall asleep tonight, you'll pass through the hypnagogic state, which is like that kind of first stage of sleep where you can still hear the sound in the room. You can still feel your body in the bed. You haven't blacked out, but you're like edging into sleep. That's a natural state of hypnosis. So when you're in that state, be saying over and over again in your mind, tonight I remember my dreams. I have excellent dream recall. So you basically, it's a self-hypnosis affirmation to remember your dreams. Tonight I remember my dreams. I have excellent dream recall. Then when you wake up in the morning or in the middle of the night, if you don't think it's going to disrupt your sleep too much, write down your dreams. You don't need to write down every little detail because we're not going to interpret them, but write down the structure of your dreams as much as you can remember. And then the fourth and final D is once you write down your dreams, you'll start to spot patterns. You'll be like, wait, that's nuts. I saw my dead grandma in that dream. Or, oh, I was back in that childhood place that I haven't visited for 20 years. Or, oh, I dreamt of that my ex-boyfriend or girlfriend from 10 years ago. You'll start to see things that only happen in your dreams. That's what you want to look for. And something that only happens in your dreams has a name. It's called a dream sign because it is a sign that you are dreaming. So you keep the dream diary. Why do you keep the dream diary? Not to interpret it, but to check your dream signs. So you're like, oh yeah, I often dream my dead grandma. Let's say you keep a dream diary for a week. End of the week, flick through it. Okay, yeah. Oh, I dreamt my dead grandma twice. God, 3 times I was back at that place in school. That's weird. That's a recurring one. And I often dream about ex-girlfriends or boyfriends, something like that. You'll see these themes emerging. And then before bed, you can tell yourself, right, if between now and breakfast, I see an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend, or if between now and breakfast, I see my dead grandma, I'll know that I'm dreaming. You set up these like prospective memory triggers that if I see that, I'll know I'm dreaming. Like childhood, being back at school equals dreaming. Dead grandma equals dreaming. So you kind of create these triggers. And then you hope that you dream about it. In fact, you can intentionally kind of go, tonight I dream of my grandma. When I dream of grandma, I know that I'm dreaming. So you're kind of incubating the dream that you want to have, which contains your dream signs. So you're kind of setting these triggers for yourself. But actually, just the process of doing that, waking up in the morning and going, that was a dream sign. That was a dream sign. That was a dream sign. That will strengthen the muscle that will go through that process when you're dreaming. And when it first happens, it's weird. You'll be in a dream, completely think you're awake, as we do in all our dreams, right? We don't know we're dreaming. You'll be in the dream and it's like deja vu. You'll be in a dream with your dead grandma, for example. You're like, grandma? Like, what does she remind me of? No way. Oh my God, shit, this is my dead grandma. This is a dream sign. I'm in a dream, I'm in a dream. And that's when you've just got to stay calm. It's like an inception when she first realized she's dreaming and everything starts exploding. You're like, oh shit, it's worked. I've actually seen my dead grandma. I recognize that she's a dream sign and now I'm lucid. So those are kind of some easy steps to begin.
I feel like I could do it now. I've been doing the first few
The likelihood
steps.
of you having a lucid dream tonight is so high. You just spent like an hour talking about lucid dreaming. So like the likelihood of you having a lucid dream tonight is way higher.
And I've already got loads of dream signs. I've already got so many,
well,
a lot of reoccurring
you've been keeping a dream diary
signs.
for so long. Exactly. You've already done the first 3 Ds. Yeah, perfect.
So can you
What would you do, Hannah, though, if you got lucid tonight?
I know,
what would
I'm
your
just
dream plan
thinking.
be?
I think it would, can you do like, show me parts of me that are still to be like, come out into the world?
Yeah, that's called asking big questions. So
yes,
you can become lucid and say like, what career path should I take? Or like, show me my highest potential. Or you can ask really direct questions like help with a certain question in life or something. Yeah, you can be asked to be shown stuff. Yeah.
That's more where I'm at. I'm like, okay, I want to expand. Where are we going?
Yeah.
How can I be the most me ever?
That's cool. Ask that. Show me how I can be the most me ever. You call that out to the dream, you're going to get something cool. I have no idea what it'll show you, but you'll get a cool response.
Yeah, I feel like that's more, I'm kind of working at the moment on being naked to the world as me. That's been, and I really related when you said a lot of the time we hide, our shadow is our gifts and how amazing we are and everything we're good at. And I've had to do so much work on letting myself shine, because I had lots of beliefs from a young age when people projected their own stuff onto me, and envy. Like, oh, it's all right for you. Everything always works out for you, when that's just not the case. But I had such an envy wound that I was like, oh, if I do that, everyone's going to not like me. And that's
classic golden shadow.
Yeah. And that is their problem. And I've had to do so much on letting myself shine. So I feel like that's what I'll use. I'll be
that's
like,
a great one.
Yeah.
That comes up a lot. Often it's more with women than men, I think, just because of the patriarchy.
Yeah.
This sense of like, it's not only this sense of like, oh, who am I to shine? But then you've got the patriarchy on top of that. It's like, so that'd be such a powerful one. Do that not only for yourself, but for all the other women on this planet too. That's a really good dream plan.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's my biggest thing at the moment. It's, I know that I've got this huge potential. So it's just about letting myself receive it rather than so that's what I'll do. So we'll see.
Brilliant. Keep me updated.
Oh my God, I will. Okay. So we're kind of running out of time here. So I just want to let's ask a profound question. If dreams had a message for the world right now, for humanity, what do you think they'd be saying?
Be kind.
Yeah.
Be kind. I think most of it comes down to that. Like all this spiritual practice we do and self-development and trauma integration and all this kind of stuff. It's like, be kind, right? Be kind to yourself and to others, because there is no other. We have this idea of oneness, right? It's like, if we truly believe in this oneness thing we talk about in the kind of spiritual communities and stuff like that, like, then there is no other. So being kind to yourself couldn't possibly be selfish, because you are connected to everyone else. And being kind to another couldn't possibly be disempowering, because you are the other. So kindness, if we could just, if that was the final teaching, if that was the pith instruction, I reckon that'd be it. And I struggle with that every day, but that's the aim, I think.
I agree. That's so nice. And that is something that I lean into a lot more. It's like, you can't show up for anyone if you can't show up for yourself. So it's not
Mm,
selfish. It's not selfish to focus on you. It's not selfish to follow your dreams. It's not selfish because you inspire other people to do the same, don't you? You're actually giving permission to people to do follow what they want to do, to let go of things that no longer serve them. But that took me a long time as well. But when I
yeah.
started this podcast over nearly 2.5 years ago, that was the premise. It was fill up your own cup first.
Mm. Yeah, because there's enough.
There's
And
enough.
it's the same cup as everybody else. It's like
Yes.
you won't limit others. You'll only inspire them and bring them to higher places.
Yeah, that helps a lot. Well, thank you so much. This has been, I mean,
Thank
I could
you.
talk to you for hours, but I think that this will give everyone listening an overview of lucid dreaming. So, and why and how they can use it. Okay, so where can the listeners find you? I'm going to, in the show notes, link your books and everything and your TED Talks, but where else can they find you?
Sure. So my website, charliemorley.com, on Instagram and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. Apparently, if you just put into Google Charlie Lucid, then all my stuff comes up. Someone recently
I
did that in
bet, yeah.
Bahamas. They couldn't remember my last name. And they were like, yeah, it does still work. So Charlie Lucid, and you'll find all my stuff.
Okay, that would be a good surname for you, to be fair. It would be
I
cool.
know. I should change my name, shouldn't I? That'd be cool, wouldn't it? That'd be
Yeah.
full commitment.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on. I've loved chatting to you.
Pleasure. Thank you. It's been great.
Yeah. Okay, bye.